Whoops. Microphone. Check. 1, 2, 6, 7. We good?
12.
12? All right. We good. We good. Welcome in, everyone. Hopefully, you guys are having a wonderful day. We are live. John's here. What's up, Mr. Stuart Haas John, who's only got 4 races left in his favorite race team. Hopefully, you guys, again, are having a wonderful night. We're going to talk about the round of 8. We got some NASCAR news going on. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. All right. Travis, my wonderful co-host. How you doing, buddy?
Living the dream over here. How's you going your way?
Good, good. I went back and looked at some of our NASCAR predictions. You had Hendrick Motorsports finishing Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Alex Bowman. I would say that's on par. I had Chase Elliott moving up front of Byron. It'll be interesting if the round of 4, if that'll actually count, because we're close. I mean, Bowman solidified himself in last. I said that Chris Buescher and Kyle Busch would make the Final 4. Oof, that hurts.
Who did I have in the Final Four at the beginning of the season?
I don't think you did a Final 4 because I did that show, the bold prediction show, by myself.
Yeah. I think so.
You did say that Chase Elliott would win 3 races. That's not coming to fruition. It still could, but it hasn't.
I don't see it happening.
No, I also said that Kyle Larson I didn't think would make the championship 4. Could still happen, but I don't think it will. So that's just fun to see what all is out there. And
I think my bold prediction at the beginning of the year was, I actually know the one was that Joey Logano wasn't going to win a race.
That was one, and you also said Spire would win a race that wasn't a Super Speedway. Yep.
Well, so I might have been wrong on that too.
Yeah, we both agreed that this year would be one of the, if not the most competitive season. So I think that is happened, as we've seen so many winners so far this year. And we got news today, Travis. I don't know if you saw this. They have decided to let Jeff Gordon in the playoffs. This is big. That's when it shocked a lot of people. It looks like he's running for Porsche.
Yeah, that's when he did the Brickyard last year.
That's also big news. Porsche is the next OEM into the sport. So no. Obviously, the only news that we had in terms of people being let in or out of the playoffs was Joey Logano is now in due to the fact that Alex Bowman was out. So let's just jump into our quick first segment. With Alex Bowman being out, they decide not to go ahead and trying to appeal the penalty. What's your initial reactions?
I think they just knew they didn't have enough information. They wanted to go through that panel, but I felt like they just didn't have enough. They didn't have enough, right? They kind of give them a 17-pound grace, right? Is that kind of what I heard? Is they get like a 17-pound grace?
Yeah, 0.5%, which is the equivalent of 17 pounds.
Yep. So they get 17 pounds. Obviously, they felt like if they decided to say like the lead was a big factor of, ballast or lead, people call it differently, but they're the exact same thing. If they say that one, that was a reason, well, there's bigger penalties on top of that. Probably if I had to assume, Hendrick Motorsports would probably get a bigger penalty for that. They saw the writing on the wall. Is it really worth it trying to get Alex into the playoffs over it? I don't know. So at the end of the day, we got a result, and, Joey Logano, it was funny because I was thinking that I was like, something's going to happen here. And Joey Logano is still going to make it to the round of 8 somehow. And shoot you not, it happened. So, because every even year he makes the Final 4. 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. Now we're in 24. So it's just bound to happen, I guess.
Yeah, I think what to me, Hendrick Motorsports and made a video on it said that, we didn't do enough to give ourselves a fighting chance in the appeals process. And I think what you're alluding to, Travis, is that they probably lost the difference in weight during that jump, but during that jump, they would have to prove that whatever ballast was there was secured properly, and it wasn't. So I
No.
think that is probably what got us to the situation where we're at.
And I assume probably what happens too is you think about where they're trying to put some of this stuff, right? They're trying to put some of this ballast, trying to hide it somewhere, right? And on my race car, you don't want to make it obvious where you have some weight at, where you have it at. So I'm guessing, during this appeals panel, they got to prove where they're putting this at, where they're trying to limit, and they didn't want to give that information out, where they keep, where they mount this stuff. So, that has something to do with it as well.
Yeah. And guys, I know it's 2024, but if you're not trying to cheat, you ain't trying to win. That's just all there is to it. So, I heard some people say, well, they had pre-inspection and things of that nature, and it passed weight, and it's like, yeah, they've been doing this forever. Like everybody passes pre-inspection until you don't, and then there's a time period between that and when they get on the grid,
And that's the thing that people forget about.
the end of
Pre
time.
pre-inspection was what they do. They start Friday, and then they have something they go through one little thing on Saturday morning, and that's it. Like
Yeah,
after that, they had a practice session. Like they could have undone stuff during that practice session, right? They had time in between. So who says that's not what they're doing? So you know, there's a tolerance, and you got to go. You got to be at that tolerance, and that's what like I think Jeff Gordon came out and said. Like, listen, I don't think there's a single car that makes weight at the end of the race, but that 17-pound grace and refilling the cars, you know, brings it in because, and I always think a gallon of gas weighs about 10 pounds.
hmm
That's how we look at it in racing. So we always put 5 gallons in, it weighs about 50 pounds. Even you could even say 8 pounds, but, whatever. But it is what it is.
yeah, and I think too. I think if we're going to be realistic, if this was Kyle Larson or Chase Elliott, they would do everything they could to find a way. With it being
Mhm.
Alex Bowman, I think he has the lowest chances of winning the championship. I still think he had a realistic chance to get to the Final Four, and anything can happen.
Mhm.
He's won at Martinsville late in the season before, and all you have to do is make it to the round of four, and you got a 25% chance. I talked in the video. Your guy had a good pit stop. That's why I won a championship. And you just got to put yourself in that position to try to win, and whenever you're able to do that, anything can happen. So, yeah, it's frustrating momentum for Alex Bowman because he had a good thing going. He quieted a lot of the haters with his postseason run. And for a guy that at least had enough noise that he had to ask the boss and Jeff Gordon whether or not he was going to be replaced, I think he did a lot to quiet the haters. We also had news today that Taylor Gray will be running in the Xfinity Series for Joe Gibbs Racing next year. So I think that might have shocked a few people. He's been running pretty solidly in the trucks. Obviously, his brother Tanner runs in the trucks as well. But Taylor Gray will be running a JGR car next year. So, I mean, I think immediately, Travis, we think, he's obviously capable of winning races, being in one of the two best car series or two best teams in the Xfinity series, right?
Yeah. Uh, what they say, if you can't win in this, what Kyle Busch used to say, if you can't win in this equipment, you might as well not even race. Right. So I don't know. I've always thought that people get rides because they win, not because they just kind of move up the ladder. So I I'm interested. I kind of caught that off guard a little bit. I thought there were some more people that like Corey Heim. Like
Mm-hmm.
why not? He's actually winning races in the exact same equipment. I don't know. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. Another thing too, and this is probably the biggest news I think that can change the way NASCAR operates moving forward. It could change the way this team performs moving forward, and that's the fact that it has been allegedly, but pretty much proven that a JGR Joe Gibbs Racing employee has sold car setup information to Richard Childress Racing, and from the date that we think it happened, allegedly on this timeline, RCR competed for a win the very next race. And that would be right after the Olympic break with Richmond. And I don't know, Travis, have you heard anything in terms of the repercussions for RCR for doing this?
I don't think there's any. There could be a lawsuit involved, but I don't think it has anything. There's nothing between the teams, right? All you can do is just fire the guy that did it. You got to think about. I don't know if you think about it like in a business term, right? If you have an inside guy and he goes and sells some of the information how you do things, or sell some customers. What are you gonna do? You're just gonna fire the dude, right? I think that's all you can
Yeah.
do. Like NASCAR said, they would look at the law if there's a lawsuit. They would just look at the lawsuit, but you got to trust your employees, right? You got an employee, like that's who you trust. So I don't think there's really a whole lot you can do.
Well, I mean, NASCAR wants the rights to their intellectual property anyway, so you might. What's surprising to me, Travis, is that since everybody knows each other's data, how knowing their setup would be that much difference.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, there's
if
spring
if a
rates, there's
team,
shocks, and
yeah,
there's a lot of like, I think of like a shock in like one of my cars. You right, we all think shocks are the same, but there's like they're called like there's 7.3s or 6.4s. A 7.3 to a 6.4 is a big difference. We might think they're the same, but they're a big difference.
yeah. To me, it's like I give you a cake. All right. You know what the cake's made of because you got the data that says, hey, here's how we're running 29 threes at this track. But you don't know the ingredients. You don't know how to perfect the cake. You don't know how. And to me, that's kind of like what SMT data is. Yeah, it's all shared, but nobody has the ingredients on what it takes to get to that point. Sure, you you understand that a car gets loose by changing tire pressure. Sure, maybe the shocks are a little bit different, not as stiff here or there. But giving that little bitty piece of information obviously completely changed the second half of the season. Well, I should say the last third of the season for RCR.
They had a lot of seconds and a win in there, right?
Unfortunately, a lot of seconds for a guy that wants 20 years worth of wins. There's been way too many seconds. So
I just don't think anything's gonna happen. I don't think NASCAR will get involved with it. I think they're gonna let the teams do it out. I assume that dude's the guy Joe Gibbs is just gonna get fired. It's kind of funny. I sent you that Ty Gibbs video where he says, "I don't know where they got this speed from. It's just random, right?" And then you knew they all knew.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can Ty Gibbs ever do an interview and not come off as a prick? Like
No.
I
No.
just watch that.
He's
I
got
mean,
him.
you can talk about anything. I'm like, God, he just seems like a prick.
First off, I'd like to thank my Lord Savior Jesus Christ. Within Him, if it's not for Him, Toyota Camry. I just, when they get on, it's just, you can almost just guess his interview.
By the way, Ty, you also plowed through 7 people today. What do you have to say about that? Is that something you think would make your Lord and Savior proud? Then I don't know. It's just I don't know. I think he's very talented. I actually think he underperformed this year. I'm very
I agree. I agree.
surprised he didn't win a race. Actually, his
He looked
second
good
half
the
of the
first 10
season was
races.
pretty terrible.
Yeah, he looked good the first 10 races, and then it was just good enough to get in the playoffs, and then it was terrible.
It was really really
Ever
bad.
since they sold that information, he was about bad.
maybe they sold his car setups and the guy that sold it was setting his cars up like RCR.
Oh, God.
Maybe that's what happened. So, is there any other news or anything here recently, Travis? I only really
Ty Gibbs owns a car, I guess, apparently now. That's kind of
gifted a
funny.
car.
You didn't see that?
Gifted
You
the
said that
54.
thing I sent you? Yeah, he owns a
Yeah.
54 in Xfinity Series. But I think that's a just given. Like, I think his dad kind of technically owned it, and obviously his dad passed away. So, a lot of crazy stuff. So, I don't know. You just look at, you just look at that, those standpoints, right? So, I just think that there's really no other news besides, that, there's going to be more that comes out Friday and Saturday about what happened at, the ballast. There's going to be a lot of excuses and a lot of stuff, stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's about it. Not a whole lot of news this week.
Yeah, and I plan on in the near future, because this is going to take years, to have a really in-depth conversation about the lawsuit between 2311, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR. That literally could be a 45-minute show if we really wanted
Mm,
to go into it. And I think right now, after we get through the playoffs, more and more things are going to come out. Um, and I think that's going to be the biggest offseason topic if I'm truly being honest with you guys, and I kind of want to table it to that, because I'm going to tell you now, I don't think we have any type of answer for the next 9 to 12 months, possibly further than that. So, yeah, when that comes out more, get closer to the off season, I think we'll get into that lengthy discussion. What else we got a chat here? We got a guy from Twitch, Wilson Joy. Yo, buddy, what's up? Yo, buddy. I don't have
yo.
a yo. So let's go ahead and talk about the round of eight. So here we go. And if you haven't noticed a trend, every time we move to a new round, we get a Kyle Larson picture because he always wins the last race of the said round.
He wrecks the first race and then somehow wins the last race.
Well, if he wrecks in this first race, I would be nervous because he has a top two finish in 4 of the last 5 races here at Las Vegas, including last 2 wins. So Kyle Larson, a comfortable 33-point cushion. He could legitimately just run 4 stage points, not worry about his finish, and make it to the championship 4. Christopher Bell, quietly, like always, just puts himself right in a position to. And number 2, Tyler Reddick, got out by the skin of his teeth. William Byron +4. Ryan Blaney -4. Denny Hamlin -8. Chase Elliott -9. And Joey Logano -11. The points do matter, Travis, but now more than ever, consistency matters. We saw Ryan Blaney last year consistently put himself in a position to make the Final Four after being close to where we see Joey Logano / Denny Hamlin right now. He went on a tear. Do you think, number one, do you think anybody's capable of doing that with these 3 races that we have in place? And if so, who would it be besides Kyle Larson?
Um, you want to look at, like, who does well with this kind of stuff towards the end. It's Christopher Bell, right? That's kind of I got in mind. I don't think we've seen the last of Denny Hamlin. As much as him and Tyler Reddick's had a miserable playoffs. I say you're going to see Denny Hamlin point his way in here, and this is why. I think Kyle Larson is going to win one of these 3 races. It's probably not going to be Martinsville, but I can see him winning. He's either going to win Vegas or Homestead. And it's just the way it's going to be, right? I just think that they're on a roll with the mile and a half. So they're on a roll. You used to expect it. One of the cars are going to point in. I think Denny Hamlin's going to turn up the consistency. He's played it very soft lately. I think they're going to be like a little Ryan Blaney last year where they just kind of shot out of a cannon out of nowhere. And do that. Tyler Reddick hasn't impressed me lately. You hate to say that. It's hard to flip a switch, but once you start getting inconsistent, it's hard to get back on that track, and it takes multiple races. Though for Denny Hamlin, he could be, he can be like this all the time, but I feel like he's someone that can just turn it on when it's the moment. So, people keep saying it's Denny Hamlin's year. A lot of us hope it's not, but I think that. This is where, if you're going to make it happen, this is the time to do it. Like I told you at the beginning of the year, if Denny Hamlin doesn't do it this year, it's never going to happen.
I'm curious because last few years, Christopher Bell's trying to make Final Four 3 years in a row, and he's had to be clutch. He had to win at Martinsville to get in. He had to win at Bristol to advance. This year, Travis, we're seeing a completely different Christopher Bell, consistent, no DNFs, and he's the first driver both times to point his way into the next round. Halfway through the 3rd race, he's already pointed in. I want to see if that type of consistency carries through, because if he gets to Phoenix, that is one of his tracks.
Yes.
A flat mile track is where Christopher Bell just simply dominates. On the other side, when I'm looking at Toyota, I think they can be quick. I think that Tyler Reddick, obviously a track that you can run the high line more so at Homestead than anything, that sets up well for him. really Toyota's terrible at Martinsville. It just seems like it's been a Chevy track slash Ford qualifying track, but it's really not been great for Toyota. So I feel like the Toyotas really got to make their work in the first two races.
Denny Hamlin has to win. If Denny Hamlin has to, if he can't point his way in, the only chance that Denny Hamlin has of getting in with a win is Martinsville. That's his only chance. He ain't gonna win Vegas. He isn't gonna win Homestead. Homestead's not his cup of tea, right? So I'm just a big believer that the only way Denny Hamlin, if he can't point his way in, if he's got to win, Martinsville's his only shot.
Yeah. And how many times has Martinsville broke his heart?
I know.
It's been a lot lately. I mean, hell, they've had to change the rules so Martinsville doesn't break his heart.
Mm-hmm.
I think one driver I want to discuss last is Chase Elliott. He's quietly put himself in a position from last year, just a complete forgetful of a season. At the beginning of the year, we talked a lot about him. You made the statement that if he doesn't make it to the championship four, it's a disappointing year. Joe made the same exact, completely agreed with you. And here we have a chance to make it to the championship four, but not one time this season have we felt like he has been close to being championship level. If he makes it to the championship four, do you still feel that way? Because a lot of people really, really like Chase Elliott. He was the poster child of NASCAR. He's still referred to the Golden Boy by quite a few different outlets, but I feel like this has been the quietest under the radar season we've seen out of Chase Elliott, and that typically is how our champion have come.
Yeah,
Is through that quietness.
I just think he has done a very Juan Pablo Montoya esque, like 2009, 2010 season. And, maybe not the wins, maybe not the flashy, but consistently in the top 15, right? He's always going to be there. He's had a couple bad finishes, just from getting wrecked out or whatever. But I just think it's it's hard to when he's finished in the top 10s, right? But you got to think about it. You got like William Byron, who had 3 wins at the very beginning of the year, hasn't done a whole lot, but he's starting to ramp it up again.
Yep.
He's getting overshadowed by, was Alex Bowman for getting the most points in the playoffs so far and things like that. Overshadowed by that. And then you also got Larson winning 6 races, obviously the front runner for all this. So definitely under the radar. I wouldn't call it a disappointment. I think that actually, I would even call it now. If he makes it to the Final Four, I think that's a fantastic year, right? I think I think they outshot their coverage. Because usually you make it to the Final Four, you don't do it based off of points racing, especially since he's at the cut line essentially. I just think you got to look at it at a if they make it to the Final Four, they outshot their coverage based off their year, right?
Yeah.
Maybe back in like 21, 22 when they had all the wins, you probably expected them to make it to the Final Four, but based off the year, especially 2020, then they won Martinsville and stuff like that. So
what's a good year now for Chase Elliott? We were talking, not we, the NASCAR community and his fans were expecting Chase Elliott to be, at this point, Travis, I think a multi-time champion, dominating the sport, and he's been nowhere close to that going on 3 years.
What I think I did the math the other day. What's Larson got? 26 wins at Hendrick compared to 19 with Chase Elliott, or 21 with Chase Elliott. I don't know. I'd have to look. I think that's just getting more and more overshadowed. Chase Elliott was there 6 years before. Larson, 6 years? 5 years, I guess, 2016 to 2020. So he had 5 years, time to build up those wins, right? Given different circumstances, right? But I don't know. I just look at, I think he's starting to just get overshadowed. I think people are starting to realize that it's a lot of Kyle Larson over there. William Byron's, got more wins. I think you look at it too. Who's the top in the next gen era? Who has the 2 most wins in the next gen car?
I'm William Byron. I'm probably sure still up there.
He's second,
Yeah.
and Kyle
Um,
Larson's first,
yeah, I was gonna
right?
say it's probably Kyle
So
Larson, and then
yeah,
somewhere near Tyler Reddick is probably pretty high up
yeah.
there. And
So it actually goes Larson and then Byron, and then I think there's four people tied at third. It's like Hamlin, Reddick, and
probably Sebo.
I think so. So, but it's crazy to think about that, right? Chase Elliott's not on that list, and I don't know. I just it's Jeff Gordon said in the post race interview, it's hard to come back from injuries, right? It took Alex Bowman a long time. You think about a leg injury. Not a lot of everyone's like Kyle Busch. It snaps his leg in half and wins a championship, right?
Yeah,
So
wins 5 races in
yeah,
7.
yeah.
Oh.
So I don't know. You just it's hard, right? So
Not to go on like a rabbit hole to where this is a hour and a half podcast. You're you're doing a draft today. If you're Hendrick Motorsports, is Chase Elliott one of your first 4 draft picks?
it
If
depends. You running like, are you running like a business, or are you running it like you want to
I'm
win
running to
championships?
win championships. I'm running to win
He's not in my top
championships.
four. He's not my top
You,
four.
would you have said that 3 years ago?
No.
I
Because
don't
think about
either.
the road courses, and I think you and I talked about this.
Yeah.
You based off road courses, he was great, but like I told you, it makes you think like, was he actually a really good road course racer, or did they just had something no one else had?
Right.
So, and I think you look at it this way too. Think about like which one would be more disappointing to you? Would it be Kyle Larson not winning the championship, or would it be Chase Elliott not making it to the Final Four? Which one's more disappointing right now?
Well,
Which one would be more
our
disappointing?
expectations for Kyle Larson are really, really high. So, I mean, I think when somebody says that they're the best driver in the world, that I expect them to win a second championship.
Yeah,
So to
I
me,
mean,
that's it.
yeah, but you make a great point. We've talked about this. Like if we had a draft of unlimited money, like, and you could just pick 4 guys, I don't think I bet he's top 8. I think he would probably be in the second team, but I don't think he'd be in that All Star team.
Yeah, I just driving home from work today. I just said like, what if RCR and Chase Elliott made a swap? Would Chase Elliott have the talent to elevate RCR to be a team that could win some races
Mm-hmm.
more so than would Kyle Busch be challenging Kyle Larson for the most wins at Hendrick? Because we've seen, based upon the information that we have now, what Kyle Busch looks like in a chance to win at RCR, which there's still a tier below. I mean, don't get me wrong. There is still a probably significant gap tier below Hendrick Motorsports at RCR, but the gap got so much smaller that now we see Kyle Busch competing for wins versus competing to stay on the lead lap.
Mm-hmm.
If Chase Elliott was at that ride, would he be able to do the same? Probably not. And at the
No.
same time, would Kyle Busch be going, man, I can change. I get it one last hurrah here to try to prove myself as the best racer in this sport. And I'm more closer to that side based on today's information.
Yeah.
So and it's just weird saying that, because Chase Elliott, this is prime. I mean, this
Hey,
is in his prime.
I think you and I talked about it last night too. You go, all right, Chase, go get in the Hendrick car, go get in a Junior Motorsports car at the Xfinity Series, and go do what you do. He been impressive? Not really. I mean, he did win Texas, but that was because of they had an extra set of tires at the end of the race that no one else had.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's all just me. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. I think Chase there for a while back in like 21 and 22 had issues with Larson because I think Larson was overtaking him just such at a quick rate that he didn't know what to do. And I think now Jeff Gordon and Jeff Andrews and all them were saying like, oh, everyone works so much better together now. And I agree with that. You don't see all the fights and everything like this, but I'll be the first one to tell you that I think Chase was jealous of the success that Larson was having, but that's just, it's coming from a Larson fan, but I think you also look at, we have friends that are Chase Elliott fanatics, and they'll tell you the same thing, that they haven't been impressed with Chase Elliott by any means. They blame it on the crew chief, but is it Allen or is it Is it Chase?
He hasn't done anything to screw up this year. I
Yep.
mean, that's the thing to me is that he was in such positions to win. So whenever those calls matter the most, they get highlighted the most. And I just think about it. I get more emotional now more than ever watching Kyle Busch because I see the finish line in sight for his career, and that sucks. It's coming ever closer, And to me, like I have to have that conversation. Like, man, maybe my guy is just getting washed and he's old. And then we see like, oh, hey, here's a competitive car. It's a little bit closer to everybody else's, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's still Kyle Busch. Like
Yeah.
yes, he's not nearly as good as the guy that was at one point thought about challenging Dale Earnhardt for wins, but he's still really damn good. Um, but when I see moving into the later stages of his career, as in his prime with Chase Elliott, I just have a different feeling, and I'm like, man, I feel like drivers like Tyler Reddick are starting to move way up the leaderboard. Obviously, his own teammate and William Byron's moving way up. Um, I don't know. It's just a thing that has
I know.
been on my mind for a while now, and I don't know. I would be interested to have a conversation after this year with a diehard Chase Elliott fan and like, how are we feeling?
Yeah.
Last year it was so easy to he got hurt.
Yep.
This year it's like, okay, so now where are we at?
What
What
do you
is
have?
our expectations?
I'm trying to think. He had 5 wins in 2022 or 4 wins.
I think it was 5.
He had 5. I'm trying to think. I think he had 5 because he
Yeah, I'm
led.
pretty sure it's
He
5.
led. He led Hendrick in wins. I think Larson had 4 or 3. No, Larson had 3. Byron might have had 3. I don't think. I think what's his name had 1. Yeah, I think he had 5, and then obviously he didn't have any last year. He's only had 1 this year. So
I mean, the storyline in 2022 was him and Kyle Larson getting in each other's way to win races,
yep,
like
and it was.
Auto Club and different situations like that. So, well, let's go ahead, Travis. First car not make it into the championship 4.
Joey Logano.
Joey Logano. All right, we can unite on that. He has by far been the slowest car out of the drivers that have made it, and I would say easily the most inconsistent car. What's your next?
Tyler Reddick.
Okay, you're gonna go with Tyler
Bold.
Reddick.
Bold. I know because he's got 2 decent racetracks coming up. He could have probably been the quickest car at Vegas, but I just too consistent, man. That's just my opinion. I think you got to be consistent going in. It's a bold prediction. Don't get me wrong. I'm gonna look like $1,000,000, or I'm gonna look like an idiot. I'll be honest.
Yeah, well, I chose this guy last year to be the first one out of the round of 16, and that was Ryan Blaney. So I don't think he gets a chance to repeat this year. I think the Ford streak is finally broken. They have had a horseshoe up their hind end when it comes to advancing into the championship
I mean,
4.
the Penske streak or the Ford streak?
Yes, yes. So the Ford streak has been the Penske streak, tomato. So I I just with Ryan Blaney 7 DNFs this year, it just seems like some of that luck has come to an. It's not because he hasn't been fast. That's one thing I will say about Ryan Blaney. As a guy that never really was a believer in Ryan Blaney, my tune has completely changed. He's a really good race car driver. To me, he's proven last year wasn't a fluke. I just don't think he makes it into the championship 4. I don't think he's on that consistent level yet.
That was my third one. So there's my third one. So Ryan Blaney's my third one. I think both Penske's cars get knocked out here. Just not enough there. I don't know. They're there. They're probably gonna run top 15, top 10, but that's not what gets you into the final 4. You either got to win or run top 3.
I'm trying to find a win for Chase Elliott, and I can't. And if I can't find you a win, then I can't find you a spot in the championship 4. I if he can make it close to Martinsville, which I mean, last time we were at Martinsville, we got to watch the Hendrick 500. There's a chance he can, but I just don't see it. I just don't see speed. I don't see speed coming from his own garage. I mean, to me, I would even say if there was only one Hendrick driver left, they could use all their resources to help Chase Elliott advance to the next round, but we're not. they got to split that among three people, and right now he is the third most talented in that organization, and I think that's why he won't make it to the Final Four.
Yep. And I'm a little torn because I really want to be a bold. I really want to do a bold prediction, like a really bold one. And I just can't get myself. My last two were between Denny Hamlin and Chase Elliott, and I'm just going to go with Chase. And I think Denny Hamlin's going to squeak his way in there. Um, as much as I don't think he's good as well as on Vegas in the next gen and Homestead, I think he's just going to sneak in there. I think it's just going to be a Denny Hamlin type of thing. So I'm going to go with. Let me flip. I'll go with Chase with you. I'll go with Chase. That's my 4.
And I'm all out on the 11. I there's a lot of people that say that these tracks fit Toyota, and to me, they don't fit him as well as everybody else. I think they fit his teammate better, and I think that's why we see that. And I've been tooting Christopher Bell's horn for a long time. He's my championship favorite. I think it's going to be between him and Kyle Larson. I think that's something that could happen for years to come. If he wins this year, there's a chance that he's got an even better shot to win next year when it comes to Christopher Bell with the way the playoffs are set up. So I'm going to kick out Denny Hamlin. That magic streak that he rode has all but evaporated. And I just, again, I don't see consistency. And at this stage, I got to know you're consistent. We get, he just bad strategy when it came to Atlanta. And it's like, he was a 28 car pileup away from being knocked out of this round if the entire field didn't wreck. So, I just don't believe it's going to happen. So, my Final 4 will be Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron.
Let's see here. I got Larson, Byron. I got Hamlin
and Byron or Blaney
and Bell. Yeah, no Bell.
Oh, Bell.
No Price.
So, yeah, it should be fun. I think there's a good chance that your boy dominates Las Vegas, and we're pretty bored. I know you guys had. I see with home. If he dominates Vegas, I don't think he even tries at Homestead.
Well, that's what you think about last year, right? I think he won Vegas, and they showed up with some stuff at Homestead, but like he says, his car wasn't very good last year, and he was still running top 2 and top 3. But then he
showed up into the into the sand.
He tried to get too much.
So, yeah, and that's the funny thing about Larson. If he doesn't win and does something like that, then you're pulling your hair out and wanting to kill yourself because that's the most Larson thing ever.
If I was Hendrick, I would be bringing out either the Indy 500 paint scheme at Phoenix, or I'd be pulling out the Valvoline.
Valvoline,
he
always the Valvoline car. You're Valvoline
car.
Yeah,
I bet the percentage is over 50% of his wins come in the Valvoline car.
As long as I don't have to see that red Hendrick paint scheme at Martinsville ever again, that was horrific, and that is one of the worst paint schemes I've ever seen in my entire life. And then it had matching fans I got to hear about for the next 3.5 hours as well. So. Well, that's going to do it. Let us know what your guys' picks are. You can find us on these different resources as well. Facebook, you can donate at Patreon if you ever feel the need to. And also at Rumble. Be talking some other sports going into the end of this as well. And we'll probably be streaming. I might be streaming the iRacing league that I'm in Saturday. We'll see. If not, piggybacking off of the broadcast it's on. Travis, very positively committed to the Saturday night Gen 6. So that's been pretty fun so far, and all kinds of other stuff going on as well. And I just hope we have a good end of the season. It's been a really, really fun year. So, Travis, got anything else before we head out?
I don't. Get her done.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again for joining in. My name is Ryan Peters with Travis Sputt. This has been Stuck in the Catch Fence. Have a good rest of your week. Stay safe and God bless.